I'm very, very excited to start the show today, and that's because I've got great news, and I know we all need some good news in our lives.
No,
in
it's
this
because you're a
period.
prophet.
What, you don't even know. It's two good news. Hold on, it's two good news. Wow.
Love it.
Yes, I'm a prophet, and we'll let you know why I am a prophet. But I'm very happy to break this one to you. Now, yesterday, News Central's special correspondent on investigative journalism, Marshall Ononaye, who was with us last week to share his investigation into the assault on a cleaner and a teacher at a school here in Lagos, was able to see through another one of his investigative reports. But this time, the report took him to Accra, Ghana. Last week, Marshall did a special report on the story of two Nigerian mothers here in Lagos searching for their sons who had apparently been lured with offers of jobs and then found themselves trafficked to Ghana. On Monday, News Central teamed up with the Ghanaian police in Accra to track the location of the two boys and effect their rescue. Here's what happened yesterday.
In a region in Ghana where the boys were kept, and we followed the case up when their parents called us, and we did that report on the Nigerians who were abducted and brought to Accra, Ghana, and subjected to some inhuman treatment, and then eventually forced to carry out some nefarious fraudulent activities online. And in collaboration with the Ghanaian police who led us to this place, we eventually rescued the victims. This house is where they were kept. It's, if you can come along with me, I'll just show you. This building is occupied by the man whom they know as chairman, and he kept the boys here. Let's just go inside and I'll show you the rooms where these boys were kept. And they had several laptops, computers, internet, access to the internet, and were carrying out several nefarious activities online. Here we had just dismantled a workstation which was here, and the boys had their chairs here, and this was basically where they mounted the laptops and were chatting up with business corporations from all over the world and trying to intercept business transactions and have the monies or payment for these transactions diverted to their own account. These boys, some of them, let's see your back, let's see. This is a machete and a butcher's knife. These were the kind of items that were used to maltreat these boys. If you take a look at his back, you'd find these injuries were done with this machete on his back. For why were you beaten with the machete?
Because I told him I wanted to go back home.
Because you told him you wanted to go back home. How long have you been here?
It's over a month now.
Over a month now?
Yes.
Okay, and in that period of time, we went into tracking these guys and discovering their location. If you just come further, I'll take you to one of the rooms where these people others were kept. Now here we found a few electronics. We found some gadgets as well that they were using to intercept some business transactions and business deals of several companies from all over the world and diverting payment for those transactions to their accounts. Now when we came into this place with the Ghanaian police, we discovered we were initially following two boys from Nigeria, but we got here and we found 6 boys kept in this building. The next room I'm about to show you is the room where the man known as chairman was occupying. He was occupying this room. The Ghanaian police had come here. They had also ransacked here. And in this room we found several mobile phones, travel documents of the culprit, the alleged trafficker, or the alleged kidnapper. We also found different kinds of drugs in this room, from marijuana to some others I might not be able to readily identify or mention. This is a closet which was used by the man known as chairman, who is currently at large. Now we were able to gain entrance to this place. Upon arrival, the place was under lock and key, and the policemen had to break the locks, and we gained access into the compound. But these boys were locked still locked in this building. For days, they said they've not eaten. For days, they've not had their bath. Just internet access, laptop, and doing whatever it was that they were told to do.
Now, after this happened, we were actually on the trail of just 2 young men here in Lagos. We ended up with the Ghanaian police rescuing about 5 young men, I think 2 or 3 Nigerians and 2 Ghanaians as well. And then they really were on the trail of the suspects. And later, Marshall was able to inform us that 2 suspects were arrested by the Ghanaian police. We broke the news to the mothers yesterday night as well. Take a look.
So what to advise other parents?
I'm so happy. Like now my brain is now set to give us mental stress. Ah, God. Everything else was not just in peace. This one here, this one here, this one here, this one here. Everyone was just start hard. We're very, very happy.
And so those were the mothers of Daniel and Zeal, as well as Daniel's sister Miracle. We were breaking the news to them yesterday during the 6 p.m. news, and it was just, there's no way you listen, because one of the mothers also gave advice as to what parents can do. And that was something we were talking about in the PCR. And she was like, parents, pay attention to your children, listen to them. But also kids, when we're telling you don't do something, it's not because we don't want you to make it in life. It's not because we don't want good things for you, but just listen to your parents as well. We want the best for you. And I think at the end of the day, you can do all of that. And with the things that are happening in the world today, technology, the way it is, your children can still find themselves
on the other side.
On the other side, in a very terrifying and dangerous situation. But all in all, we are very, very happy to be able to report this story.
Honestly,
it is great news. And close to News Central. If anybody doesn't say it, I'll say it.
Yeah.
So
honestly, I'm so proud and I'm so happy, because we really need to put an eye on this Yahoo menace. It is destroying our youth en masse. And the demography is getting younger and younger. We're talking from age about 13 upward now.
And there's so many of
and
these.
There's so many.
There's so many of these happenings that we as News Central, as a team, as a people here, we have to bring it to the fore. We have to shed light on this. This is just one part of it, and we hope that we can continue on News Central here to bring you these kinds of happenings and make everybody aware that this is what's happening, whether we like it or not. Would you know that just yesterday, I don't know how true I intend to, but I'm just keeping an eye open and an ear open also. There's a place around this area that has just opened for I think for sexual pleasures of 15-year-old girls and under. Yes. But like I said, it's, I just learned.
We need to talk to Marshall.
Yeah.
When Marshall comes back from Accra,
exactly.
See, right now, Marshall's not even going to rest. We put him on another story already.
This is what we do here.
We talked about the one that happened in Delta States, where SP Bright, I think, posted the video, and we broke it down. And even yesterday, we spoke to a former assistant DSS, operative. Not operative. I'm trying to get his title. I apologize. Dennis Amakri. We also had a professor of sociology join us from Illinois in the United States. We also spoke to a Ghanaian as well, because for many people, they're here in Lagos. We already have the issues in states across the country, in Lagos as well, but to hear that you're even moving them cross-border. So this is now becoming, the Yahoo that's being done wherever it is not content to stay where it is. It's now cross-border. You're becoming an international criminal organization. By the time you're crossing borders, it's becoming a different story. You know, that's where Interpol gets involved and so many other people. And at the end of the day, again, I'm so sorry I talk about this. NOA, what are you doing? We've seen the rise of Yahoo. Now we're seeing the rise of young boys being lured. So apparently these boys were told that they're going to go and act in Nollywood. They even paid the agent that was taking them. And apparently the agent was telling them what to do to douse, like, you know, the fears that their mothers or their parents would have. And then next thing you find out, this is not Hollywood, Nollywood, bro. It's Accra.
No.
You cross border. Somebody even tweeted under our own tweet about being in a bus going to Ghana and seeing them in the bus. It's like, no, I know that these people. Somebody also said we should not even leave Accra, that there are more Nigerian boys and girls in this situation.
Of course there are.
So this is a massive issue that the Nigerian government needs to deal with. And I have to say, the Nigerian police, you need to look at yourself. Because when they went to report to the Nigerian police, the reception that they got, and we reached out to the police command here in Lagos, they've declined to comment on this. Make of that what you will.
There's so many things, there's so many sides to this story until it's very close to you, or maybe it's happening to someone you know. You might not see it. I've been hammering on these things for many months because sometimes I'm on the ground and I listen to some of these stories and I hear some, there's so many things you hear, but you cannot say this is evidence. You do not know how to even pursue some of these things. And these boys are being told all sorts of grand ideas. And when they do make like a small breakthrough in this particular nefarious business activity they're doing, they see it as a plus and they celebrate them, they upgrade them. That you see a very young boy doling out cash to friends and family. And I'm like,
what happened to the days where even if you bring home a pencil, that's not yours, Auntie, where is this pencil from?
Look,
return it.
This thing happens all the time, even on social media. You see young girls and young guys making it big. I'm not saying go about poking your nose.
Yes.
People no longer question people's wealth. In fact, it's like you attract a certain kind of respect, regardless of your age.
That's what I'm saying.
There's a particular person that I know, we're not very related, but family friends. This guy is, 22? And now he's going to clubs, buying out their drinks and everything, and nobody's even calling him to order because the parents feel like, oh, God has shown us mercy.
What mercy? How?
Like
what does he do?
I feel like young people need to be more oriented because, again, there's that pressure on their peers. Like, if this person is doing it, and then they're being celebrated with millions of followers. Exactly. Then they want to do the same thing regardless of the repercussion.
Yes.
It's just...
Honestly, I agree with you.
But this is good news for us here because it's a win for all of us. So call it a spree of good news if you like, or you might as well call this one the Jasiri Jazz. Hey, see what I did there?
Yeah, JJ.
All right, so let's move on. Just yesterday, yes, on this table, we called out a House of Representatives member, his name Alex Ikweche, who was caught on camera assaulting a delivery driver. He also threatened to make him disappear without a trace, challenged him to go and report to the Inspector General of Police. Well, Mr. Stephen Abuwasea just did that. That's the name of the driver. Yesterday, Mr. Do You Know Who I Am was called in for questioning by the Federal Capital Territory Police Command, Maitama Divisional Headquarters, over what transpired between him and the driver.
Now, a statement released by the command spokesperson confirmed that the police had commenced investigation into this matter, and the statement also noted that after allegedly slapping the victim, he reportedly remarked with contempt, "You can go ahead and call the Inspector General of Police," demonstrating a troubling disregard for the authority of law enforcement. After slamming the lawmaker for bringing the IGP's name into his threat, they also confirmed that the rep member was being questioned. Now, this morning, Alex Ikweche has released a statement of apology titled "A Statement of Regrets and Commitment to Justice."
Tolu, receive
President General
among the nation. In fact, it was as if they took it out. Maybe they were Jasiri because they took Tolu's caption that we are going to receive a half-hearted apology of some sort. How, Tolu, why didn't they cut your clips?
I don't know.
And add it,
to slice it in.
Slice it in.
Nah, man, girl, you
Honestly, it's shameful.
I'm trying to
I do not
get the
even want
statement
this
for
to
you
stay
guys.
on the statement, on this statement of apology. He insulted that man, threatened him. Imagine if this was the other way around. This guy will be languishing in prison as we speak.
So apparently, part of what we're hearing is that he actually was in jail overnight, that this guy used his power, whatever it may be, to have him detained. Let me not use the word arrested. Detained, because He spoke to a social media influencer and was sharing part of his story. There's also something about 50 million. I couldn't catch that part. But let me just, I'll also quickly extract some of the highlights of the statements. He said, honorable, I don't think there's honor in any of this, want to address a deeply disturbing incident that occurred at my residence recently. And then he talks about unacceptable behavior towards an Uber driver. I'm deeply sorry for my actions and acknowledge that they were unacceptable and unbecoming of a public official. As a public servant, I recognize the trust placed in me by my constituents and the Nigerian people. My behavior falls short of the standards expected of me, and for that, I am truly sorry. He says, I understand my actions caused harm and embarrassment. I want to assure the public I am fully cooperating with the Nigerian police investigation, and I support their efforts to make sure that justice is served. I also appreciate the swift condemnation of my actions by Nigerian citizens, and I'm taking immediate steps to address the underlying issues that led to this incident. I'm seeking professional counseling to ensure that this behavior never happens again. Additionally, I will be engaging in community service initiatives focused on promoting respect, empathy, and understanding. And then he urges Nigerians to join me in promoting a culture of respect, tolerance, and understanding.
So yeah,
actually, if I was to write a
boy?
statement, they're not too bad off. They're
Yeah,
not too
yeah,
far
they
off.
tried though.
They tried.
No, they tried.
But where's the
thing is,
compensation?
the guy needs to be compensated because it was a lot. Imagine, these
That's
are some of-
emotional distress,
Yes.
threat to life. I can have PTSD. I have just PTSD just watching
it.
Because you're telling me that you as one person who actually is a first-time House of Representatives member, feel that you have so much power being a first-time House of Representatives member that you can make me disappear and nothing will happen.
And nothing will happen.
In a generator house.
And he will lock you up in your generator house.
Regardless of all of these apologies, he also needs to be investigated, because I do not believe that with that confidence he spoke with, he has not done it before. He needs to be investigated.
And so what I feel is missing, one, we've checked off police investigation. Two, somewhat of a statement of apology and acceptance of
Yeah, because that's
Compensation.
He gleaned, you see, he gleaned everything and brought it to the fore. You, in one statement of apology, you said counseling, as in you thought in advance.
No, this was written by
You thought-
professionals.
I know.
But these are the things I have been hammering on. I know a lot of people who say
this is the
Lola is always
statement.
talking PR. Because if you know how to spin a story, people will calm down.
Yeah.
Because this is everything that we should expect.
He has mentioned everything Nigerians
Everything
would
Nigerians would expect except compensation.
There are two things missing from me. One is compensation, but two, I do not believe that we have a House of Representatives that will tell me they don't know. I think there should still be a very strong statement from Nigeria's House of Representatives
Exactly.
to talk about the fact that they stand very strongly against the action of their member, possibly suspend him as well. But we need to know that you, as the body that he represents, aside from his constituents, takes this very seriously and distances yourself from this. Silence is not an option in this situation.
I think maybe the reason he even put out that lean apology was so that the House of Reps would not have any reason, because they can come now and say, oh, he has already apologized.
With the police investigation too.
What further investigation would the police want to do? They want to know what their mental state was at the time he was saying it, or he would say, oh, he was under some immense mental stress, he wasn't himself. Those are defenses they're going to try to raise, and I'm waiting to see.
Someone say, okay, because I'm stubborn, it makes no sense. With the gusto that he was performing the previous day before this hit social media, and thumbs up to the power of social media and human. And now we are just.
This is where the court of public opinion works.
Yes, we talked about that yesterday.
He was, if he didn't, and I think it's smart thinking for the delivery guy to just put on his phone and start recording.
Because it becomes a he said, Yeah, when power and influence are on one person's side,
My dear, you are totally lost.
It probably would have even been worse than he said.
Yes.
It would have disappeared without trace. You said it.
Nobody would know.
Nobody would know. It would be in the generator
Yes,
house.
it'll be in the generator house.
All right.
Anyway, it's a good one for them immediately to call him for questioning and put a statement out. We can give some kudos to the police, and that I also expect this much transparency on the matter, and it doesn't get swept under the carpet, because nobody is above the law. And you would think a lawmaker would know this, right? No. But this is Nigeria. Nothing really happens. Anyway, we are promising to keep a close eye on the case and bring any updates as they come. Still on the matter of updates, you know, last week we had the president of ASUU on the show to discuss the proposed ASUU strike. Now, SSANU and NASU, has started their indefinite strikes yesterday. After the break, we will have NASU's national president join us to discuss the reason for the strike and their demands from the federal government. So you don't want to miss any minute of the show. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Don't forget you can join the conversation via social media. We are at News Central TV. Now, the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SSANU, and the Non-Academic Staff Union of Educational and Associated Institutions, NASU, have embarked on an indefinite nationwide strike, which started yesterday, Monday the 28th. The strike is to demand the immediate release of their 4 months withheld salaries. This action follows the government's failure to release the withheld funds despite President Bola Tinubu's approval of 50% payment. The strike affecting public universities across the country is the latest development in the ongoing dispute between the unions and the government. On September 17, 2023, the Joint Action Committee of SSANU and NASU issued a 3-week ultimatum to the federal government to pay the outstanding withheld salaries or risk industrial action. This is not the first time the unions have taken such measures. In 2022, they staged an 8-month strike to press for better welfare packages and protest the withholding of 8-month salaries by the federal government. And during the warning strikes, university operations came to a standstill, with hostels and various varsity gates locked, as well as electricity supply cut off by disgruntled non-academic staff.
And the unions accuse the federal government of unfair treatment and discrimination, citing the release of withheld salaries to Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU members, while neglecting their own. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration approved the release of withheld salaries to ASUU members in October 2023, but SSANU and NASU claim they have not received the same treatment. The strike's implications are far-reaching, affecting millions of students and potentially disrupting the academic calendar. Joining us to discuss the strike and its impact on the president is the president of the Non-Academic Staff Union of Universities, Dr. Makolo Hassan. Dr. Hassan, you're very much welcome to Jasiri.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Dr. Hassan. Now, Dr. Hassan, I'm just going to go straight and ask the first question. Now, many Nigerians are a bit more familiar with the history of ASUU with the federal government, particularly when it comes to MOUs and agreements. But can you briefly give us a breakdown of the MOUs and agreements that NASU and SSANU have signed with the government that have fallen through? Because I'm not sure a lot of people are familiar with those.
Yes, thank you very much. The current action now dates back to 2022. And in 2022, we were agitating for a number of issues. And these issues include the 2009 agreement, the negotiation that was overdue for renegotiation. And we were talking about the outstanding earned allowance for all the university workers. We're talking about the inconsistencies of IPPIS. We're talking about the proper funding of the state universities. So while we were on that strike, the government called on us, and that was under the leadership of Malam Adamu as the then Minister of Education. And we enter into memorandum of understanding to the effect that 50 billion was earmarked for the payment of earned allowances for all the workers in the university system, and that the issue of IPPIS will be tackled, that the NUC will approach the state governors to fund their state universities appropriately, among others. And in that premise, we call off the strike by signing the MOU, which says no member of the two unions will be victimized for participating in that strike. And when the issue of no work, no pay came on board and our salaries were withheld, we felt that we have gone contrary to the signed MOU, because not paying salary means victimization. And so that is one. We have number of MOU, and sometimes we even call it memorandum of action, memorandum of understanding, and nothing is happening. So the recent one that is was signed on 20th August 2022, and nothing was done. And when the current administration came on board, the president said he has given a waiver of 50% to the withheld salaries. And meaning that our members who were owed 4 months' salaries will now be paid 2 months' salary. We were not agitating over it. We called for it. We went for various meetings with the Minister of Labor and Minister of Education. And even when Professor Tahir came on board as the Minister of Education, we continued until they assured us that the president has given approval and the Minister of Education has written to Minister of Finance to effect the payment. That letter was delivered by the Minister of State for Education himself, not even a clerk or a director in the ministry. And so we were happy. But 1 month down the line, 2 months, 3 months, nothing happened. So we have to give a notice of strike, nothing happened. You remember that we went on protest. Protest means warning that we are not happy. Even without protest, nothing happened. Then when the NLC president visited the president of the Federal Republic and reported what was happening, the president redirected the Ministry of Education and Finance to effect the payment. And we were happy that the president has given express order. Despite that, nothing happened. We gave notice of this strike 3 times. We gave the first one, we talked to our members to give the government time. Second one, we told our members, pacify them, let's give them more time. This is the 3rd one. Wow. And there's nothing we can do other than what we have embarked upon currently. Thank you very much.
All right, Dr. Hassan, a very quick question. So the president has given approval, and more than once or twice he's been reminded because there are people, as you said, the Minister of Education and Minister of Finance are involved. Do you want to put forth any theory as to why SSANU or NASU has not been paid this 50% that the president, the highest leader in the country, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, the head of the cabinet, has made an approval for? Do you want to put forth a theory as to why your members have not been paid what the president has approved?
Well, to us, we don't have any answer to that because we are as confused as well. Because if the president of the Federal Republic has given order, then we believe that who is there to flout that order?
All right, let's move on now, Dr. Hassan. So let's talk about the critics. How do you respond to critics who argue that strikes are, ineffective because it's been going on and it seems like the educational organizations just go to strikes directly, like as a way of getting their voices heard? But what would you say to the critics who say that strikes perhaps are ineffective in achieving lasting change, considering the power imbalance between unions and employers? And also, are there alternative strategies that the unions have tried over the years that have led up to this new strike that seems not to have an impact with the Tinubu-led government?
Well, I want to record here that our members and the leaders are not strike mongers. Strike is the last thing that union leaders will embark upon. That is where all the avenue has failed. Of course, there are alternatives to strike, and that is dialogue. Even in the face of war, you still return to table to dialogue. And that is why we have embraced this dialogue. We have held series of our meetings right from the time of Adamu down to Professor Tahir, and we'll be meeting with Minister of Labor right from the time of Dr. Chris Ngige. And that is to tell you that we don't just jump into strike. We have written several letters. We have given reminders, and nothing seems to happen. And so at the end of the day, when you cry and nobody listens, and when you are pushed to the wall and there's nothing to do, all you need is to face back and face the reality. And that is why we have now given the notice. We call it the final notice of indefinite strike action. And nothing happened until it expired. Now we are on strike. So we follow all the due processes. And to say that the strike is not effective, the strike is effective because sometimes the government will not listen until you go on that strike. And my question is that why must we wait? Allow staff, workers to go on strike before we listen. We can keep staff on their toes in the offices. When you do what you need to do and you do it at the right time, there will be no need for agitation.
Dr. Hassan, it's so nice to hear that you speak about the necessity of the strike, and you want to believe that it does get the government's attention. But how do you address this concern that strikes actually prioritize union interests over the student needs? Because in the past, we have seen how much havoc some of these strike actions have had on the student populace itself. How do you want to respond to that?
Yes, and that is why we always do it by appealing. Because when you are giving notices, when you are writing letters, you are writing so that people who are in authority can listen. And those who can appeal on behalf of the worker. And it would interest you to know that most of all the leaders, we have our children in these universities. So we are as well affected. That's why we don't just rush into it. I can tell you that we are now talking of the issue of 2022. So if it is all about the strike, the law for strike, we would have gone on strike law before now. We are now in 2024, almost ending. We are pushed to the wall. And all we need to do is to appeal to government, to agencies of government, those who are in the authority, who are working for Mr. President, to do the right thing the right time.
Before we go on a break, I want to ask, there have been some comments from SSANU members and NASU members in terms of what they perceive to be the unfair or the imbalance in the treatment of their unions versus ASUU, the Academic Staff Union of Universities. Dr. Hassan, would you like to speak to that? Do you think there is a difference in how government seems to respond to you or treat you, that's NASU and SSANU, compared to how government responds to ASUU? Because I know on this 50% payment of withheld salaries, I believe ASUU members were paid some of their own, but it seems that it's NASU and SSANU that have been left holding an empty bag.
Yes, and again, I wouldn't want to go to the direction of saying we have fight with ASUU. I keep saying it over and over again that apart from allowances, all of us in the university system, we are fighting for the same cause. Talk about funding, talk about library equipment, and other things. We are saying the same thing apart from allowances. And so if ASUU were paid, it is their right to enjoy that money. But we were not paid. And who paid ASUU and left us out is what we don't know. All we are interested in, please pay us to the 2 months as approved by Mr. President. You have paid ASUU, it's a good one. We can't go to them to share their own with them, give us our own.
Okay, Dr. Hassan, I'm also very curious as to what has been the most challenging aspect of negotiating with the President, Bola Tinubu's administration. Do you believe that they are committed to resolving this issue? Because unfortunately, it seems like strike actions have become an unending conversation. So do you think they're interested in even resolving it?
Yeah, I do hope, and I believe that the matter will be resolved amicably, in the sense that the outgoing Minister of State for Education has intervened to some extent and is negotiating for a meeting within the week. So if that meeting holds positively, then we will speak to the press on the way forward.
So I know the notice of this strike action was given a while ago. You've sort of given us that timeline. And this was before the president's cabinet was reshuffled, which just happened recently last week. Now, some have said that once you heard that Professor Tahir Maman was out, you would have given some time for Tunji Alausa, the new Minister of Education, and Shraiba Ahmad, the new Minister of State for Education, to settle in that they are inheriting a problem from Tahir Maman and other ministers of education. How do you respond to that, to this idea that you should have shelved the strike given that there were new players on the board?
Yes, the problem on ground is we have given notice of strike not once, not twice. This is the third one. And this third one was given under Professor Tahir as the minister. We never envisaged that it was going to go so soon. And so it is a coincidence that the new minister is on board. And it is not as if we want to undermine his capacity and authority, but it's a coincidence.
All right.
Okay, thank you so much for still being with us. We're going on a short break now. We're talking about the strike action embarked upon by NASU and SSANU members due to unpaid salaries. So when we come back, we'll definitely continue the conversation. We still have our guest, Dr. Makolo Hassan, with us. So stay with us and don't miss the conversation.
Right, this is Jasiri. Our spotlight today falls on the strike by the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SSANU, and the Non-Academic Staff Union of Education and Associated Institutions, NASU. We had to get that right because sometimes we just hear SSANU, NASU, and then, you know, we don't know what it really means. Our guest... Our guest today is Dr. Makolo Hassan. Thank you for staying with us on the show and having this discussion on the state of strikes as an effective tool to get the government to start talking and finding new ways to move the education system forward. All right, so before the break, you had talked about a lot of things which we appreciate you shedding light on. Now we want to move to the removal of inconsistencies in the IPPIS that you mentioned, the IPPIS payments, and replacing it with the U3PS as one of your demands. Now, ASUU also has a running issue about the IPPS. What are the concerns of SSANU and NASU on this?
Yes, like I said earlier, one of our requests was the issue of the IPPIS inconsistencies. And because we felt when we migrated from GIFMIS to IPPIS, there were a lot of third-party deductions that were not remitted. You find out that the staff welfare in the university system is key. So union leaders at the various branch levels, they go into forming cooperative society to help themselves, to help their members. And sometimes under the IPPIS will deduct very well, but they will not remit to this union for effective management of their welfare system. And sometimes some branches will go to the bank to take loan. IPPIS will deduct, I will not remit to enable them service this loan. And banks are not Father Christmas. And you see them visiting our members with a high interest rate and for defaulting to pay when they are supposed to pay. But currently now, the government said we are going back to the old system of gift mix, leaving IPPIS, even though this was resolved some months back, almost 5 months or thereabout now. When there was a directive to move to IPPI, it never take them 1 month to move us. But now moving back from IPPI is taking months for us to move. And all we are looking at is a system that will go seamlessly, that will help both the workers and the government. And that is why we keep on agitating. Of course, the government has shown that there is nowhere in the world that workers dictate to government under which payment platform their salaries are paid. And that is why the U3PS of this JAC of NASU and SSANU and the UTAS of ASUU have been kept in abeyance. But we are believing that this were done, from a free mind, free of charge, without asking government to pay attention. Of course, nothing comes, even in free time, there's no free lunch. Yeah. We spent money to work on those platforms, but the government has kept them aside. All we are looking for, let us look at the best. What is the best that will be able to cure the inefficiencies of IPPIS?
Okay, so Dr. Hassan, it's interesting you mentioned the inefficiencies, and to hear that money will be taken out of accounts, then not remitted, and it causes trouble. It makes us want to ask, in terms of these 4 months withheld salaries, what has been the impact on your members, on members of NASU, on members of SSANU? When we had the ASUU president, he spoke about a number of members, I think about 80-something plus, who he said had died in the course of waiting for their salaries to be paid. So we'd like to know the impact of these withheld salaries on NASU members and SSANU members as well.
The impact is enormous. And of course, death is inevitable. People are dying, and we may not attribute them particularly to the non-payment of the withheld salaries, but generally to the poor economic situation in the country. Now, this 4-month withheld salary, as at the time we're supposed to be paid, a bag of rice was still going for about 60,000 or even less than. It is not yet paid. We're not asking for 2 months. And by today, a bag of rice is already 100,000 and even maybe above. So even if this money is paid now, it goes to no issue, but at least it is their sweat. And because the president has approved, they should be giving their money to cushion the effect. And like we're talking of students suffering, students are equally suffering because most of these workers are parents. Their children are in various schools, universities, and the money is not there. The money we are taking as salary, for some of us who are having car, you cannot service your car for a month as we talk now. So every little thing that we have anywhere, we need to harness it so that we keep body and soul together.
Okay, so I'm also very curious to know what a successful resolution to this strike looks like for SSANU and for NASU. If there is no immediate payment of the money that is owed, are there alternatives that you are looking for to what key concessions or agreements would need to be met?
Well, we want to believe that with all this outing and with all that you guys in the media are doing, there should be something positive. We don't want to believe that nothing will happen. Something will happen beyond agreement, in the sense that we have various agreements that have been reneged. So going into another agreement now will not be the solution. So if the president has said, go ahead and pay, we want to appeal to those in authority, those in charge, those involved. Kindly pay this money that can actually not do anything meaningful in the market today.
I just want to ask you, sir, how long are you willing to take this strike? You know, how seriously are you going to be taking it? Are we going to be seeing short gates, kicking students out, turning off electricity? You know, all those places that your members function, are we going to see a total downing of tools in those areas?
Well, we have instructed our members that there should not be concession of any sort. But that is not to say that we degenerate into chasing students out of their hostel. No, our members operate waters. Our members operate lights. And once we are not on campus, no other person will come to do our job on our behalf. So the consequence is that there will be no light. The water they have currently may last them not more than 2 days. It will be over, and they will feel the impact. Apart from that, I don't think there is any other adverse effect. But of course, once we're done too, what you expect to enjoy will not be available for you to enjoy.
Mr. Hassan, I want to ask you this pertinent question based on what you have just said now. I know you're speaking a lot of faith that you believe that the government will come to the table and they will engage. What are the long-term consequences you foresee for the education sector? Peradventure, this strike needs to persist, or is there anything that can be done to mitigate this or avoid it? Because you are believing that they will come to the table to engage. How about if they do not?
Well, before I spoke that I believe we're going to the table was because the Minister of State for Education had made the proposal. We will not make the proposal to government and say, come and let's meet. Of course, we've given you notice. So all we need to see is to see their response. And the strike here, though indefinite, maybe within 24 hours, maybe within 48 hours, depends on the proactiveness of the government. Of course, we know the impact that will fall on our students because we are equally parents. But we appeal to them to equally help us appeal to government to have a better university system.
All right, so Dr. Hassan, before we let you go finally, we hear that the federal government, I believe you mentioned it as well, through the Ministry of Labor and Employment is evoking the no work, no pay policy. And that was, of course, when the four university-based unions embarked on a prolonged strike in 2022. This is where the withheld salaries conversation and unpaid things came from. But my question to you is this. Do you think you are negotiating with the government on good faith? And I ask that because when we had the ASUU government, we put the same question to him. 2009 agreement. This is 2024. Government is a continuum, regardless of the administration, regardless of the person who wins the election and is then sworn in as president. Once you sign an agreement, any government is bound to it. And we see a situation where oftentimes unions like your own and ASUU and others will continue to warn and say, hey, you have not paid us, you have not done what you agreed to in the MOU or the agreement, and government will seem to keep pushing it off until you go on strike. And then they'll start begging you, think of the children, think of the students, think of the country, and then you go back to the negotiating table. Is all of that done in good faith? If you sit down with government this week, do you really think you're negotiating with them on good faith? And is the union willing to renegotiate the terms of the existing agreement if government is honest enough to say, we can't do everything you're asking for? Looks like Dr. Hassan is. What was that? And that's a very critical question. Unfortunately, I hope we can get him back very quickly. We just have a few more minutes left. But it is I think it's an important question because when we see negotiations with governments, it's like they just sign these things to get the unions to call off the strikes and to go away. But in the long term, there are many parts of the agreements that government never fulfills.
I'm hoping that the new Minister of Education and the new Minister of State for Education will probably have to quickly go to the round table privately and work out something workable. Because it's a thing when you have a portfolio. You know the challenges that come with the portfolio. It's not like it's just forced on you or this happening has never happened before. It's a recurrent thing.
Yes.
So I want to believe that they should have a plan. All these discussions that we're talking, how we're engaging them, they must present a plan that is workable. Because just having bogus agreements signed and never
for them to just go back to class.
It's annoying. It's a slap on the face of the government.
The truth is, that question, that what if the government can come to the table with everything? What are you going to do? It's a question that you have to think about as someone, as a human being, as a Nigerian.
Yes.
You think about the pros. There has to be plan A, plan B, plan C. So what are your plan Bs and plan Cs? Plan A is for government to say, okay, we're going to do this. Suppose it's too heavy for the government to attend to at once. Okay, we're giving the ASUU 1 trillion naira. So your problems are over. It's over. But I don't see that is going to happen.
I do agree with that because it feels like, unfortunately, the government only has one plan, and that's to sign and resign and renew.
And just keep them back from strike.
It always tends to work, and I think that it's time for these unions to see that no matter how much we press, it's going to end up it's going to result into a resigning or a renewal that never gets implemented. So, just like you said, there should be a different plan. I'm not saying go and start burning down buildings, but there should be something that they can implement.
As far as I'm concerned, this government have to be sincere. You know, most of the time, what we argue about is the insincerity of the government.
Regardless of administration.
Regardless of the administration. If there is a challenge, come to the table and tell the truth.
No.
At least do not. No, because it is unfair that we're still discussing.
Tell the truth, okay.
The 2009.
And shame the devil? Tell the truth and shame the devil in Nigeria?
It's untoward that we're still discussing the 2009 agreement. Why don't you come to the table and say, this is what, but of course, you know, when they go to all these schools and they give them stipends, OAU still got $1 billion naira recently. I'm sure that by the time they drop it into the oceans of needs, it doesn't even look as if, and that is one school. And that is just the magnanimity of the First Lady that she did that. So we have to come to a sincere table, or else we're back here every time.
It's about equity, coming to
Either comes to equity,
must come with clean hands.
No,
This
those
hand
hands
is
are not
on
clean.
live clean. This one is palm oil hand.
See, and I want to add to this. You know, I think sometimes strikes can be contagious if we're not careful. We still need to check in with the ASUU president and see what conversations they were able to have, because they were supposed to have a meeting after we spoke last week. But if you don't know, the Joint Health Sector Unions and Assembly of Healthcare Professionals, ASUU, is also on strike. They're on strike, and they started a 7-day warning strike on Friday following a 15-day notice of industrial action, which was issued to the federal government. And they, of course, also have an existing agreement with government about unpaid salaries, remuneration, conditions of service that have not been actuated. So when you look at the evidence before us, the very prime associations and unions, ASUU, NASU, SSANU, JOHISU, sometimes NMA, that have sat down with government and made agreements, and government has not been able to fulfill. I, for one, at this point, that's where I side with Lolo. There has to be some truth. Obviously, government maybe cannot be able to fulfill its part of the agreement. Can we renegotiate? But I also will listen to them when they say, well, you were signing that agreement in 2009. Did you not know? Were you not profiling? When things have changed, before we went on strike, why didn't you call us to the table then and tell us the truth?
The reason,
and break
I think
it
the
down?
reason they cannot offer the truth is because they cannot defend the truth. I don't know if it's making any sense.
No, it makes
like,
sense.
okay,
when a senator is making
fine,
14 million naira a month and says it's still not
we don't
enough,
have the
how do
money
you
to
defend that?
Yes, we don't have the money to pay so and so. Why? They can't
The government is
defend
like a debtor. You go around banks borrowing money. It's time to pay back. You promise, and you go and borrow from another bank. Borrow like a man who has different women.
If there's no
Wives, and you cannot
accountability, there
satisfy
can
the
never be
wives.
truth in this country.
Your wives are striking. Your wives are many. ASUU, SSANU, JOHISU.
And let me tell you, it's just like
going.
you say, it's a ricochet. Once they can get this agreement done and everything is done as it should, trust me, we're going to face every other union is going to come out
because
and make
people
their own
deserve their
demands.
money. They deserve to work in good conditions. They deserve to get their own.
What's the alternative?
It's okay.
What is the alternative?
Let
You
us-
have to make the government pine for or yearn for something. They go back to how did they used to do it those days when the war people who go to war go and watch period pieces and see how they do agreements. We are going.
Blessings, we're going.
SSANU, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Me, I shall know that where there is no accountability, there can't be truth. So I don't expect truth anytime soon.
Accountability is very far.
It's okay, we're going. Goodbye. See you tomorrow, same time. Bye.